Today, we will be joined by Stephanie Kiotsukis from Fresh Strategy and AI Solution, and also our unDavos founder, Mark Terrell. They combine years of frontline perspectives on AI, strategy, and Davos in general. And with that, I welcome you to stage, Stephanie and Mark.
Hi, everyone from all over the world. I am Stephanie. As Robin already introduced myself as founder of Fresh Strategy and AI Solutions, I help actually organizations innovate better. And that means also becoming AI native. So transitioning from a today's state into a world of AI and being fit for the intelligent age. I'm here with Mark.
That's me. I think many of you will know me, but those of you who don't, and if you're looking at the recording to this afterwards, hello, my name is Mark. I am the founder of the unDavos community and the summit. I have a background in collective intelligence, crowdsourcing. I did my PhD work on the topic. I was a bad student, and we'll get into very much about how to be much more entrepreneurial as a spirit. So I turned my PhD thesis into a book, and at the age of 25, I earned 3 times more money than my professor. What I became passionate about is around how do you help companies innovate? How do you help them solve problems, particularly in tapping into the brain power of all of the people around? So I'm really got very deeply into collective intelligence, and that even got me onto the World Economic Forum radar with the invitation as a technology pioneer back in 2008. Today, day job is really working at, let's say, rewiring the organization. So this is not just a passion area, but this is a very important aspect of business development, etc. Is looking at really how do we take advantage of these AI tools to rethink and change how organizations work. Now, we use this ourselves at unDavos very much. We'll get into that. But then it's really helping people here in the room and in the extended room as well, using Davos as a platform. And thank you very much for joining me today. This will be a good chat.
Yes, indeed. My background is actually large corporates, and I was in the middle of organizations that had thousands of employees trying to bring innovation to the market and realized how hard that is in certain organizations. And so I know the way from a legacy system into a new system, and how do you bring in new tools, new innovation, but also a new mindset and transform an organization to be fit for the future. My motivation to actually work in the space of AI came from content manager that was working for my company. That was way before ChatGPT was actually launched. And this lady was an intern. And when she left the company, I asked her, what did you really do according to your job profile? What is it that now I should look for to replace you? And she replied, actually, you don't need to look for anyone anymore. The AI is doing my work already. And that was before ChatGPT was launched. This really made me think about my job, my role, because I do a lot of strategy work, consulting work, I do work on processes, all of these things. And suddenly I realized maybe the AI will also replace my job. And that took me into the world of understanding what does it mean to become AI native? What is really going to change about my job? What is really going to change about the world? What is really going to change about all our tasks and the things we're doing, the workflows, decision-making, strategy, all of this. And given that, I decided it's high time to actually do something about AI and start working with it in my organization. And now today we work with clients and still see people around us that are hesitant and don't really want to introduce AI, don't want to rethink their processes. They don't realize how important it's actually becoming. All they do is introduce tool after tool. But as we know, a fool with a tool, so somebody using a tool who doesn't know how to use it, will still remain a fool. And that means ultimately you only get small benefits from using the AI, but what we're aiming to actually achieve is leapfrogging into the future, understanding how do you create value in a world that's becoming more and more intelligent.
Very. It's actually one of the things that a lot of people don't know is the unDavos Summit itself was the first AI-powered summit in Davos back in, Rob, was it 2023?
22.
Yeah, true.
Starting in 22 and
Oh yeah,
then
we
23.
did do it 20. Oh my goodness, quite, yeah, exactly. 22. And actually, Robin, can I borrow you on stage for a sec?
Sure.
Josh, come back on Scotland.
Oh, yeah. I'm coming. I'm running up the stage.
So Robin was, when we were putting together the summit, we put a call out onto, I don't know, Facebook groups just to say, "Is anybody interested in coming to volunteer?" Robin stood up, community manager, and then we said, okay, we have to put a program. We need lots of content. He goes, GPT. And so I was then repeating to everybody the whole week, just, we're using GPT. Sounding very clever. People go, wow. And I had no idea what I was talking about. But Robin, what did you do? What did you do in 2020? Like, how did you help?
We were a small team and we had a big program and we had a lot of blurbs, which were kind of like intentions behind the program. So what we did was that we, with the help of GPT, got GPT to help us rewrite the different programs to be more concise and also richer and more to the point. And that helped me, as I'm not a copywriter, greatly as a one-person team at that point.
Well, and it was phenomenal to see this sort of website program go from being completely non-existent to literally within hours. It was populated, it was sensible. In these days, we didn't think it was too bad if it said that we were thrilled to welcome a world, because that was brand new writing in those days. For all I know, it was actually your text that pretty much whatever changed all the models afterwards.
Maybe.
Yes, but what you guys realized, or what we realized early on, was that there is a need to actually do something about it. And what I see still today is a bit of hesitant with larger organizations. What I'd like to highlight is, even though it might be hard to go through a transformation, it might be hard to actually adopt these tools and change things. And really, I think the hardest part about this is having the imagination of what is it that will really change and how do we change things.
And so as we look at Davos, is this very intentional space in time, and it's also almost like an annual reflection to say, okay, is everything going well in our world, or is something going wrong? Why do you think AI native is one of these words? What does that mean to you, and why do you think now is the time to get really into it?
Clearly, we are small businesses, but also larger organizations. They feel the pressure. For instance, what I've seen in the past 12 months, due to geopolitical shifts across the world, that budgets were cut tremendously. Some of our clients saw up to 40% of budget cuts. Basically, that means they need to do more or deliver the same type of value to their customers or stakeholders with resources. How is that going to work? When you are under the pressure of delivering more with the resources that you have at hand, it's quite easy to think of AI. Maybe it's worth trying something new and doing things differently. Competitors will emerge who are AI native. I'm also a startup coach across Switzerland. And what I see there, these startups, they are not sleeping. They are doing things very differently. So they do more than a large organization. They bring in more innovation out than large organizations with, 10 people or very small amount of people. And how do they achieve this? By actually using these AI tools very smartly in their operations. They are set up in a way to be AI native from the start. And that's, I think, the challenge for most of organizations today is to reimagine themselves. How would you set up this organization if we were founded today?
I think it's a very timely, but it's almost like a sort of hourly important conversation. One of the Davos family office guys was speaking to, see, he invests a lot in tech companies. And one of his investor companies is a drone company. So he was sharing, let's say, this type of rewire approach to the CEO of that company. The CEO then thought, okay, we're not going to use it in our core business. Let's find a bit of the business which is taking a bit of time. So he went to his research department where they'd contracted somebody who was making a nice report. The guy had spent 2 months writing the nice report, said it was going to take at least another 2 months to finish it. And so therefore this nice report was going to cost around $40,000. And the guy said, are you using any AI? He goes, no, I would never do that, can't trust it, etc. The CEO ended up with the board members' advice, using some deep research, using some tools that he'd never used before, realized very quickly that he could get at least 80% of the way pretty much that evening. And he went to the guy and said, you're fired. Now, this is an American company, so maybe it's a little bit extreme. But then he explicitly went through, and I think this is what you're trying to get towards with Rewire, to say, well, okay, let's systematically go through everywhere in the company. And unless we're going to think about how we put AI in today or tomorrow, then in his case, he fired people. So he actually fired half of his staff.
And this
Because
is
they
going
just
to be a big challenge. We're all talking about the workforce is going to undergo very tremendous changes in the coming years. Maybe we're not all going to be fired, but the objective, we all will need to adopt these tools and learn how to use them, and also learn how to set up new processes and rethink our approach to work in depth.
And before I joined the call, I was listening to the CEO of Anthropic, who did an interview on 60 Minutes, and he was saying that 50% of entry-level white-collar jobs will disappear in 5 years. 50%.
There are many reports that showcase that, especially people coming from universities who finish their masters will have lots of problems finding a job, especially in social sciences or that type of studies. Many studies actually point towards that.
Okay, so then let's say bring you back to Davos then. So how do you pull this together to do a program in Davos? You've run a few programs before. You actually ran the innovation program last year and the AI program and scaling impact as well. But how are you going to pull this together as a program for this coming year?
Look, I think what's very special about Davos is that all the decision makers from various functions of organizations are there all at once. In other summits or in other places, you will have a summit for CTOs, so just technology summits. You will have a summit for innovation people. You have a summit for marketing people, etc. There will be a newsletter that will announce it as well. So I guess you are the first ones to actually see it. But our program Rewire is on Luma already, at least parts of it, not the details. And we encourage you to actually sign up for it. I think what's important to also say what's changed since last year. So last year, what we've had is sometimes 4 to 10 times as many people apply to attend the session than we had space in the room. And so we decided this year to actually have a ticketing service so the right people can enter the room who really want to actually be part of a certain program at unDavos. So what you see here is called memberships. And the memberships is something new that we were offering this year. People who then have a membership with unDavos will be able to have fast access to the rooms.
Yeah. So we do have some left. I think there's about 30-ish left so far. So we've got for the Friends of Davos, this is the first set, and then afterwards we're doing a music festival style for the other ones. But no, this is very important. And then we have the Magic Davos party as well, which should be epic. I think a lot of people can still network on Friday, and that's one of my most enjoyable days. But we pretty much wrap up our content on Thursday. And so it's a very nice party that we're planning for Thursday night.
Yes, so if you're done to stay in Davos, it's worth going to the party as well, because that's a fun closure of the week.
So really good. Should we switch gears? Thank you very much for the Davos Summit. Now we're going to get into the special content that only people on this specific webinar, and then we're going to be sharing it with our Davos Summit members. We'll teach you how to use AI and other clever tools to supercharge your Davos. I'd like to share a thing. I'm going to share my phone, and one of the top secrets that I have. One of the things I have is I'm very quick at sending messages and stuff, and my trick is text replacement. I use an iPhone. And right now, here I have a whole bunch of shortcuts. So if I want to share anything on here's what Davos Week application is, I type in DWW. If I want to send off the Davos delegations, DDG. If I send you a message saying HHHHH, this is always happy to help. All the way through to here is my LinkedIn. If I make a typo to my first LinkedIn, it's got my company address, registered things, email address, which comes up very often. I have email addresses. Now, one thing that I've done as an expert tip is that I've thought about, let's say, how do I make sure that I'm very unlikely to type in my text replacements normally? And so what that means for me is that the odds of me saying PPPP are very low. But if I look at, let's say, something else, if I was to have something for sharing, SHAR, if I had ER, well, as share, sharer, and it means that it's likely to actually make me a mistake. So for my LinkedIn, oh, look, there's Stephanie's one there, because I have to sometimes share, like, this is who I work with. And so therefore, that's SKK. But I wouldn't put in LINKS because I might often need to type in the word links. So here are some links to share with you. And whatever so for
And why
me,
is that important? Because Davos, you meet so many people in such a short time. And actually, it's super important to connect with them immediately or to schedule a call with them immediately. Otherwise, you'll forget and they'll forget you.
So I think this is a game changer. And so what does this mean for me? This means that, for example, if I go into my LinkedIn, can I find it? And so if I look at, so for me, what I would normally do, if I could do this thing live or got somebody in here. So somebody is connected with me. Cindy has, I'd see who she is. And then I put in Cindy, great to connect. Oops, and I put my typo in. Oops, my keyboard has decided to go German. And there we go. That allows me to help. And that's one little secret that I have for using text replacement at scale. So particularly when I look at calendar bookings, any URLs that I use, the odds of getting a typo in it is dramatically higher when you do it manually. I think to have a copy and paste, but so I take everything that I need to do and standardize text replacement.
It's a very good tip. I've started using it as well. And it makes things easier and much faster.
You did a talk at TEDx in Davos this year around synthetic innovation. What happened with that, and how can people in Davos use your TEDx interview insights?
Yeah, basically 2-3 years ago, we were still just creating blurbs and sending things out with GPT already. That's the further way to do it. But today we're doing it a little bit differently, because today we actually realize that we can use these tools to mimic the behavior and the attitudes of our target audiences in Davos. So what we've done, and everything that we do actually for Davos Summit, goes through a check by our Davos personas. We have multiple of them, but let me show you. Mine are very mean. They always think everything is bad that I'm doing. So I prefer giving them to Mark's personas. But basically, I have created Davos personas here. You see them in a folder. This is a project folder on Claude. We can do the same on ChatGPT, but I decided here to do it on Claude. And then Davos personas project folder. And I give instructions to this folder. You embody the following personas and provide feedback on the assets that are proposed in here. And then the output, etc. And here are the personas that it's supposed to mimic, right? And be. If you guys want to improve things that you're preparing for Davos, I highly recommend creating Davos personas that are your target audiences. So you can use ChatGPT to make research on the audiences that are relevant for your business area. So if we are doing something like Rewiring the Organization Academy, I will ask it who out there that might attend Davos could be interested in becoming AI native, like a very broad, simple question. And then it will provide ideas, and then I will go into iterations and improve those ideas. And sometimes for certain markets, I also use Perplexity, another AI platform, to conduct more in-depth research on certain personas. But here we have the Davos personas, and I have set it up to always be these personas. So what you could do is then say, your elevator pitch, create it with an AI, and then test it with your personas and refine it and make it better. Criticize this elevator pitch and then copy it one over from ChatGPT here. And let's see what my personas will say about this. And again, they're very mean. They always destroy everything I say. So what we have here are different types of organizations or type of people that are present in Davos. Typically, we have about 30% of investors. That's why family offices, etc., are important. And then they always have an official feedback and secret thoughts. And then a willingness to buy, which is a score between 1 to 10. So 3 out of 10 for Marina. And what are her secret thoughts? This sounds like a consulting firm, not investable. But Richard is actually the mean one. He says, another AI consultant. Get moving means nothing. No differentiation. Who are their clients pass? So basically what it says is how you can improve your pitch. And then the AI gives me a summary of the things, the weaknesses, and what to fix. So I get for this elevator pitch a 3.9 out of 10, which is maybe worth improving and spending a bit more time on, especially as Davos is so busy and these people get to hear elevator pitches all day long from very interesting and good people.
I think a few things interesting which are quite unusual. So one is you're getting the secret feedback, not just what they would say. So effectively you're getting twice as much feedback. I think the second thing is that I've seen a lot of people doing personas before. I noticed myself when I started doing this that the general personas were really quite positive and constructive. So I think you've got your skeptical people then just gives you a different perspective, and it's more likely that you'll have some people in there. I think then the last thing then is what they can suggest for you to improve to increase your conversion. I think is also super interesting as well.
Yes, indeed. I think it helps us a lot right now we're in our bubble somewhere at home or somewhere in an office, and we have no idea who we're going to meet. This gives you at least a bit of a sense of what works and what might not work, and gives you ideas on how to improve your pitch or whatever you're proposing. It could also be a service, right? If you're creating a flyer that you want to bring along about your services, if you are preparing a website with, I don't know, an app that you're launching, whatever, these personas can really help improve and increase the likeliness of success.
So I can share something from my side as well if you want. So I've been very into capturing content on, I'm going to move this thing into the middle so I can look at it. I've become very interested in using Davos as an excuse to create a whole bunch of content. So what I've done then is that we're actually working with a professional storyteller, a company called Humanize, and they've been really doing some great work helping us at the unDavos Summit. But one of the things now is that there is a project that we have to create true stories that develop the Davos narrative beyond just the Davos. And so it's worked out, how do you get more from a room? How do you then get more from networking? The next thing then is that the expert had come up with some sample stories, and I didn't like any of the sample articles that were there, but what I liked was the format. So the format was have a story, have an insight, and then the rest of the content. So what I do when I'm creating my sort of work, this is all my preparation work, is that I constantly use a dictation. So I almost never, I rarely type in that, particularly on the phone, I rarely type. This is then an example of just exactly what I typed in. Now, let's get a galaxy okay is clearly wrong. I never look at the transcript that it comes up with because it's just not worth it. And it comes up with nonsense. And around a tenth of the time, it comes out literally as Welsh. So it gets my English and then retranslates me to Welsh. But now it goes into, and again, that's why I think Rewire was super interesting. I rethought the business process. So right now I need to create at least 8 articles or 8 posts on the topic. I then said, okay, can you please give me some potential stories that might have existed in Davos? And it came up with a whole bunch of stories. What I then thought was, okay, I'm not going to use any of your fake stories because I have plenty of real ones. And you've just inspired me to have an article of the big sponsor who spent over 100K on an event. So this is a real person. So he's Swiss-based, Zug-based, and he has a digital exchange, and he's the CFO, and they spent 100K. He thought the whole thing was totally useless. And then while he was on the train going back to Zurich on the last day, he was sitting opposite a quiet guy. It turns out this quiet guy was also into crypto, was the 3rd biggest customer that the exchange had, and that was a perfect session. So all I did was I dictated that. So this is maybe 90 seconds worth of 60 seconds. And then it came up with an article for me. Then I came up with extra stories, one after the other. And so this allows me to batch create content. And I use Google Docs and I use tabs in the Google Docs to get the text right and have a human to manipulate it. And then I post these on a schedule on LinkedIn. And there we go. It's another use of AI. There we go. That's my one.
Now I'm wondering which use I should show. Maybe the batch creation of a content strategy. One of the things.
And this is something I could learn then.
Yes, I'm not going to go into details because it is quite complicated Or I can't explain everything in 2 minutes, but what I've done for creating my content strategy is basically build AI agents. And this is really becoming accessible for everyone now. Tools like Relevance AI, this is the name of it, allow you to build your own agents just by drafting a prompt. So this is the agent, and here is the prompt, right? I wrote this prompt with the help of this tool. So basically, it's a prompt-based agent creator. And then what it does is scrape LinkedIn to find relevant posts from people that I'd like to follow, but I don't have the time to actually read what they're doing, or it would take me a lot of work. Because these are people who set the agenda in the space of AI. So first, I actually had ChatGPT do a research on who these people are, who are these creators, we call them, or key opinion leaders. So you have Ethan Mollick here, Andrew, or many others in the space of Rewire the Organization. So they do things around technology, they do things around transformation, people, all of these aspects. So I have a list of 40 creators in here that is being scraped by my scout when I want it. And so basically here, the agent went into their LinkedIn and extracted all the posts they published in the past 3 months. So, for instance, Ethan Mollick talked about advanced AI models shift their beliefs as they encounter new information, etc. So this is one of his posts, but I'm not going to go through that list because, as you may imagine, there's 40 pages now of different posts in here. What I then do, I download this list and then I give it to Claude to actually create a content strategy. And the batch creation that Mark was talking about in Claude compared to ChatGPT is much, much more sophisticated, much more sophisticated. And I'm going to show you the content plan that Claude created fully automatically for me, which is this. No, wrong list. So based on the inspiration from the posts of the others, based on the followers that the others have, the number of followers, then I gave it also I downloaded my data on LinkedIn, how many people are in my network, what are my objectives. So I said, I want to increase reach, I want to increase engagement for my posts, I want to drive a more interaction. And it created then this content calendar once in various batches with the dates, the topic. Then it said, what are the lead magnets that we need for this, to deliver this, engagement metrics, the tracking. So I can then upload every week what are the metrics of my week. Just download that on LinkedIn or take screenshots. And then every single post. So basically it said, these are the topics these people talk about. If I look at what you're doing in your profile, your ambition, your objectives, this is how you combine all of these topics and thoughts of these people into something unique that speaks your voice. And then it created 5 posts for me to pick from. So it has here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 per day that I'm going to post. And as you can see, there are many subpages in here. I think there's 25 different pages to different topics. So meaning a full-on content strategy for 3 months created in half a day on Claude.
That's quite remarkable.
The next step is to automate the full process. My key consideration right now is I want to be in the loop because it is, after all, my voice and my LinkedIn and my reputation that we are putting at stake here. So I want to be in the loop and really ensure that the quality of what goes out there is the quality that I expect. So right now, what I'm doing is verify the posts, but then over time, the objective is really to say, okay, fully automated and I can just go approve.
And I think one of the things that's interesting, so when we had done our first AI trainings, we were talking about, let's say, using it as an AI helper, then AI expert, and then we had these AI playbooks. I think these days is that a playbook is still quite manual. So I, for example, I use OpenAI for most of my stuff and then Claude for the sort of counter check. And I've got two different legal advisors, one in Claude and one in OpenAI. And that's because both of them miss material things all the time. And yet they're always good at picking out what the other person has missed. So I just pass them backwards and forwards. And what I think is, though, quite interesting is I think this year is going to be the year not so much of just AI agents, but orchestrating agents.
Yes, indeed.
So it's
just
not just
different
one
steps
piece
of
of
the
the
process. Yeah, exactly.
because that would be great, because then I could just come up with my thing, make food for half an hour, and then it just go blah, 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 and then it's all done. That'd be good.
Yep, indeed. And I think what's actually taken me a lot of time in the past few years when going to Davos is going through all the lists of events and finding out where do I want to go and what matches my needs and my expectations. It's been a lot of work. I tend to do that between Christmas and New Year, but obviously I have better things to do between Christmas and New Year. I think this year, what I will do is just go onto both platforms, because I think GPT and Claude have different strengths, but then I'll say, for instance, where can I find my target audience during the OF in Davos? Here is the overview of events that are offered. Create a schedule for me. Now,
Okay, you'll be using one of these sort of downloaded Excel sheets.
yes.
Very good.
Create a schedule for me, and now I need to say, like, my GPT, of course, has the chat history, but I could say my target audience.
Let's you're a climate lab.
I am a
Well,
climate scale
you'd say I am a target scale up.
climate
Look, yeah.
scale up, like this.
And then
Looking for partners and investors. And one of the lists that's been actually shared widely is, you just add a file, is this list. It's an Excel sheet. I don't know if you have, good, twice. I uploaded it twice. Okay, here,
okay.
Let's see what it comes up with. And let's do the same in Claude. Let's see what Claude tells me to do.
Why does your thing say Queen Stephanie?
Because I like playing with the AIs and having fun. And I like being politely addressed.
Cute, very cute.
Okay, it's analyzing. So ChatGPT is analyzing the data, and now it's coming up with day-by-day schedule.
Impressive.
Schedule in table format. Okay, let's wait till it finishes. So it actually finds climate impact investor forums, energy, why to go. I didn't give it much information. Climate sustainability closing programs, strategic logic behind this schedule. I like that. And let's see what Claude says. Well, generally speaking, Claude is much better in analyzing Excel sheets than ChatGPT. So especially if there are multiple tables on the file, Claude will find them, whereas ChatGPT won't. Yeah. So Claude, from the file that I uploaded, found these events. Well, definitely I'll have a look. But that actually helps everyone to schedule or create a schedule for the week quite easily and fast.
And it is amazing. If you look at, like, when we started this session, we were saying, thank you to Robin for coming up with the first sort of creating some text. It's amazing how in just a few short years, we've had such a drastically changed tool set overall. We've got a few minutes left. Maybe I might want to share about how we use clay.com, because that's another sort of more advanced tool set. Okay. If you talk about, let's say we just did this project for trying to reach out to great speakers. If you want to frame up how it works while I get this sheet open.
Yeah, so basically today with tools like Clay or other platforms, we can scrape, right, the internet for information instead of doing it manually. The way we've done it this year for finding speakers is by identifying key conferences across the world in the topics that we cover, right? So for instance, AI topics or deep tech topics, ESG, sustainability, whatever. So we have a list of all the conferences that we think are great in this space, and then developed a tool in clay.com that will go and scrape the conference websites, find the speakers, and put them into a database. And then based on that database, Clay also found these people's LinkedIn profiles. And now we have a very good database of potential speakers to speak at our conference. And it turns out not everyone is in Davos this year, of course, but then in the future there might be. But it turns out that a substantial amount of people are in Davos. And these are a different way to curate the program. Last year we did everything manually. So basically, from last year to this year, technology has changed so much and allows us to really supercharge our work and do much more with less resources, or with the little resources that we have.
If we were trying to say, like, who would be good to invite to Davos, maybe we do a web search to find out a conference. It sounds like a great conference. Here, if I was to go into that website, I'll wait for the website to appear. I would then maybe work out, like, who are the speakers, and I'd have to find that. View program, find speakers, and then copy paste into a spreadsheet. And it would just take bloody ages. Instead, pretty much, when we've been using ChatGPT and Claude, that's using it on a conversational basis. So we're just having question response. This works like a spreadsheet, but almost every row in the spreadsheet is question response for this row, question response for this row. But here we can have a little bit of different types of magic. So this is definitely next level up type of skills. And we've worked with companies before to actually create sort of automation or methods like this. But here what happens is it says, give me the conference, then find the page where the speakers are, find the page where the sponsors are, and then run for each conference and then populate. And here we go, there's loading. A 4,000 row spreadsheet with all of the people that we found at the conference.
Yeah.
And then once you found
them, you need to clean the data. There's the next step, because what you'll have on this sheet is people like von der Leyen or Barroso or very high level people, right? So you need to say which ones are relevant speakers for my conference. And then with tools like Claude, I started segmenting the list into different types of speakers, super VIPs and less, like next level of VIPs, and then reaching out to different tiers of speakers to attract them or to ask them to speak at our summit.
And there's just some cleverness in here. So what we've said is that for this person, Baptiste, and here's what we have from the conference. We're trying to find out their LinkedIn, because once you have a person's LinkedIn, you can know education background, where they're based, work history, seniority level. But there are different ways of finding a person's LinkedIn. Does this way work? Does this way work, etc.? And then once you've done it, you have what's called data enrichment, when if you have a LinkedIn, you can work out their job title, their organization, how many followers they have, seniority, where they're based, etc., etc. And once you have that, then you build almost your own sort of custom database that you could use in different ways to do marketing, to do outreach, etc., all using public domain information. And by the way, for those of you who are interested, so we have a legitimate business interest letter, which was required under European interpretation of the European GDPR. And we used a combination of OpenAI and Claude to write our letter to make sure that we were correctly following rules on using this type of public data. But this is an even more advanced example about this is really where we get into Rewire organization type of stuff, as opposed to where I started with the very, very basic stuff on my phone. Now we begin to look at an organizational use of AI, which is much, much more substantial.
Yes, exciting things and exciting use cases. So we have a lot of these when we're in Davos, so please approach us if you'd like to have a chat on these things. But we also have in our program, we will feature impressive use cases of how workflows can be redesigned today. And
I mean,
yes,
I think
very right. Is like somebody said, yes, the limitation is our own imagination. And getting your hands dirty and trying things out is actually key to opening up your horizon and understanding how to use these tools and then imagine new ways of working.
And so when I was using some of these tools, not all of them, because many didn't exist, I already had a substantially better Davos last year, at least 5x in terms of material leads that were followed through, time and everything else. I'm expecting to have the same bump again. And I generally would say that I'm about 20 times more productive this year than I was at the same time last year, with, again, some material things. But that's not just me coming up with stuff, it's also working collegiately with a team, with having very creative, innovative people to coming up with stuff, and we're pushing ourselves to learn together. But then also we have a focus. And right now we have this Davos basically forces us to get everything done. But I think just timing wise, I don't know if we have any last questions, but otherwise you're always happy to contact us directly. Any concluding thoughts, Stephanie, that people should take home with?
I hope we were able to showcase how innovative and also how exciting the Davos programs will be. There's 10 other programs that we will probably also feature, at least some of them, in the coming webinars. So if you're interested in seeing behind the scenes and actually understanding what we'll be doing in Davos or at unDavos in January, please join the webinars. Beyond that, of course, don't forget to sign up for the events. The rooms are filling up quickly. And last year, remember, I had one of the events at 400 people applied to attend, and the room was 70. And unfortunately, then I had to say no to the vast majority of people who wanted to join. And hopefully this year we can, through our memberships, we ensure that the people who are member can actually join the events they want to attend.
Whilst in the meantime, using some clever AIs behind the scenes to actually help you not take as many hours and hours with the work.
And we'll showcase that maybe in Davos.
And I think what's quite special with the Davos Summit is that we are practitioners. So we're not conference organizers. Yes, we organize now the biggest independent conference, and thanks to all of the people here. But this isn't, well, let's say, our day job stuff. I guess to some extent, people could say, well, okay, what actually is your day job, since you seem to have so much fun? But I do see that it's going to be great to be able to work with people on a direct basis, and then also begin to think about more concrete, bigger things that we could begin to do together. Well, with that, I'd like to say thank you very much from me. Thank you to Stephanie as well. Thank you, thank you.
Thanks everyone for attending. I hope you liked it, and then see you in Davos.
See you in Davos. Thank you.